You ever have one of those weeks where you think nothing could possibly surprise you any more than life throws something at you that leaves your jaw on the floor? It's exactly what happened to me. My name's Mark, and after 20 years serving as a Navy SEAL, I thought I'd seen just about every shade of human arrogance, cruelty, and stupidity this world had to offer. Turns out, retirement had one more mission waiting for me, one I didn't sign up for, but one I was more than ready to finish. It started with our HOA, my wife. Linda and I bought our dream home in a quiet cul-de-sac about a year ago. Linda always wanted a garden with roses, and I just wanted a place with enough land where I could finally relax without feeling boxed in. For a while, it was peaceful. It's peaceful, see. Our HOA wasn't your normal group of busybodies arguing over lawn heights or mailbox paint. No, these folks acted like they were running a private police force. They had uniforms, badges they bought online, radios clipped to their belts like they were extras on a TV cop show. But behind the tough guy act, they were nothing more than a gang of bullies who thrived on intimidation. At first, Linda and I ignored them. A fake citation here, a passive-aggressive note there. She used to laugh when she found the notices taped to our door. Mark, she'd say, holding up one of their ridiculous violation slips. Apparently the roses I planted are a quarter-inch taller than the approved height. What should we do? Call the FBI? I'd chuckle, shake my head, and throw the paper away. Let 'em bark, honey. They're just dogs with no teeth. But one night, they showed their true colors. And that's when things got ugly. Asterisk, it was a Friday evening. I had just gotten back from a run, and Linda was setting the table for dinner. The smell of her roast chicken filled the kitchen, the kind of smell that makes you grateful for a quiet home and a loving wife. Then we heard the loud banging on our front door. It's not knocking. Banging. Linda frowned. Who in the world? I opened the door, and there they were. 3 of the so-called HOA officers, dressed in their black polo shirts with HOA. Enforcement stitched on the chest, clipboards in hand, radios crackling. One of them, a big guy named Rick, stepped forward like he was about to interrogate me. Evening. Mr. Turner, he said, squaring his shoulders. We've had complaints about your wife trespassing on common property. We're here to issue a citation. I raised an eyebrow. Trespassing? On my own property? Rick smirked. That rose garden extends 6 inches past your boundary line. That's HOA land. Before I could respond, Linda walked up behind me. She was calm, polite as always. That's not true, she said. We measured everything. The roses are within our property line. The smallest of the 3 men sneered. Lady, are you calling us liars? Don't talk to her like that, I said firmly, my voice dropping an octave. Years in the military taught me how to project authority without yelling. Usually it works, but these guys weren't smart enough to pick up on it. Rick leaned forward, practically nose tunes with me. You think your military record makes you untouchable? We run this neighborhood. If you don't like it, maybe you should find somewhere else to live. That's when Linda made the mistake of stepping forward. She wasn't confrontational, never has been, but she wasn't going to let these clowns intimidate her. You don't run anything, she said firmly. You're not police. You're just bullies with clipboards. The insult hit Rick harder than a slap. His face went red. Before I could move, he shoved Linda back. She stumbled, hitting the doorframe. And then, God help me, one of the others punched her across the cheek. I saw red. The moment his fist made contact with Linda, everything inside me changed. My training kicked in. My pulse slowed. My focus sharpened. I wasn't in my front yard anymore. I was back in a combat zone, facing hostile threats. Only this time, the battlefield was my porch, and the people threatening my family weren't armed insurgents. They were cowards wearing fake uniforms. I stepped between them and Linda. You just made the biggest mistake of your lives. The smallest man laughed nervously. Oh yeah? What are you going to do? Call the cops. I smiled, cold, humorless. Smile that even made Rick hesitate. No. I am the cops tonight. Before any of them could react, I moved. A quick elbow to Rick's chest knocked the wind out of him. He staggered back, gasping. Done. The second man tried to swing at me, but I grabbed his arm, twisted, and sent him sprawling onto the lawn with a controlled takedown. The last guy froze. But I wasn't about to give him the chance to run. I closed the distance, grabbed his shirt, and growled in his ear. "You think scaring people makes you powerful? You're nothing," he whimpered like a child. Linda, bless her heart, had already pulled out her phone and called the real police. By the time they arrived, 2 of the fake cops were groaning on the ground, and the third was sitting on my front steps crying. When the officers arrived, they were skeptical at first. The HOA goons immediately started yelling about assault and resisting HOA authority. Linda calmly explained everything. Everything, every ridiculous citation, every threat, every piece of harassment. The officers looked at the so-called uniforms, the fake badges, the radios, and then I saw it. That moment where they realized what they were dealing with, sir. One officer said to me, "You're telling us these men punched your wife and pretended to be law enforcement?" I nodded. "That's exactly what I'm telling you." Linda, still holding her cheek where a bruise was forming, whispered, "They hit me." That was it. The cops snapped into action. The 3 HOA enforcers were cuffed, read their rights, and shoved into the back of a squad car. Rick tried to protest, shouting, "You can't arrest us. We're the HOA police." The officer laughed. "Buddy, there's no such thing. You are in a lot of trouble." As the taillights disappeared down the street, Linda leaned into me, her voice shaky. "Mark, what if you hadn't been here?" I wrapped my arm around her. "Then they'd still be standing. We can't let that happen again." You'd think the story ended there, but it didn't. Those men didn't just disappear quietly. No, they lawyered up, backed by the HOA board that had been enabling them for years. Suddenly, we were dragged into court, accused of assault, property violations, and even defamation of the HOA's reputation. I'll admit, it rattled me. Combat zones, I could handle. Bureaucracy? That was a whole new war. But I wasn't about to let them smear Linda's name or make her live in fear. In court, their lawyer painted them as community guardians just trying to enforce rules. The bruises on Linda's face told a different story. When she took the stand and described how Rick punched her, the courtroom went silent. I watched the jury's expressions harden with every word. Then it was my turn. I explained calmly, clearly, that I'd served this country for 2 decades, that I'd fought men who actually knew how to fight, and that what I saw that night wasn't authority, it was cowardice. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, looking at the jury, "my wife was assaulted in her own home by men pretending to be police officers. If I hadn't stopped them, who knows what they would have done. That's not community service. That's criminal." The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. The HOA officers were sentenced for assault, impersonating law enforcement, and harassment. The board was dismantled, stripped of authority. Our neighborhood finally breathed again. People came up to us afterward, shaking our hands, thanking us for standing up to the bullies they'd been too afraid to confront. Linda and I rebuilt our peace. Our roses grew taller and brighter than ever, maybe out of spite, maybe out of resilience. Every time I see them, I'm reminded of that night. The night my wife was hurt. The night I had to become a soldier again. But I'm also reminded of something else, that evil doesn't always come in the form of foreign enemies or armed insurgents. Sometimes it hides behind fake badges and smug faces right in your own neighborhood. And when it does, you have to stand up to it. Linda jokes about it now, saying, "Well, Mark, I always wanted to see you in action again, but maybe next time we stick to gardening." I smile, kiss her forehead, and reply, "Honey, as long as I'm here, no one lays a hand on you again." And that's the truth, because you can take the man out of the Navy SEALs, but you can't take the SEAL out of the man.